Okay, and so then we move on to the cold and warm spot experiment. So in this situation, what we're going to use is the same grids that we used before in the cutaneous sensation experiment, but instead for looking for pressure sensation, we're actually going to look for thermoception. Okay, so what Melissa will do is have her palm out here. I will touch this brass rod in every square on the 9 square grid, and Melissa will report not if she can feel a touch or pressure, because she certainly will, but she'll report whether she perceives that touch to be cold for the cold rod or neutral, or when we put the rod in warm water, whether it's warm or neutral. So we're going to first start with the cold rod, which has been put into ice. Very important to dry it off before touching on the skin. And then I go around in touching each of those spots, and Melissa reports whether she perceives that to be cold or neutral. And so as we go through that, what we actually found was that there was one zone of her hand where she didn't really have very good thermoception, and another zone that was particularly sensitive. Okay, so maybe half of the grid she felt as cold, but that was particularly localized to the region under the thumb there. Okay, and so then we can move on to do the warm sensation. And remembering too, the beaker of water that we're putting the rod into for the warm sensation it's only 40 degrees. So it's not much hotter than body temperature. So the reason we do this is that if we go too high with the temperature, we can actually trigger the pain receptors, where we really want to isolate the thermoreceptors for this. So we do the same thing again, and what we notice is that Melissa has a similar level of sensitivity, but it's a bit more scattered. So she only reports a couple of warm spots on her hand for that experiment. I think the ideal way to do this experiment would be to have some sort of device that can be temperature controlled, because obviously as soon as I'm holding onto that brass rod with my hand, heat is being conducted away from the rod into my body, or heat's being conducted from my body into the rod, depending on whether it starts as warm or cold. And of course you can repeat that experiment for the grids on the shoulder and also the lower back.